All right, everyone. I'm going to make a little video here for you going through some of the activities in Lab 1 for Chapter 1. So activity 1.2, 1-2, whatever you want to refer it to, is installing Active Directory domain services. We're creating a new domain controller with a new forest. So one of the first steps here is we're going to log into server SA1 as administrator. The password is password with a capital P 01. So password 01. All right, now that we're logged in, the book wants us to use Powershell. So we'll launch a Powershell session here. Just launch the regular one. Run it as administrator, although it should automatically launch as administrator on a server. All right. So the first action they want us to do is set the network adapter DNS client to 127.0.0.1, which is the local host. In reality, you don't really have to do this step first, but that's what the book wants us to do, so that's the way we'll do it. They're having us do it through a PowerShell command, which is set DNS client, if I could type, server address, interface alias. Now the book says Ethernet. However, if we come look at this computer, interfaces here, we have Ethernet 0 and Ethernet 1. So we will do Ethernet 0, server addresses 127.0.0.1. Now if we go look at ipconfig, very useful tool in Windows. Using the /all option, it'll show us all of our DNS server settings. So before there was none. So now we see the 127.0.0.1, which again is the local host if you're not sure what that is. That means it's referring back to itself. Now, since this lab computer setup's slightly different than the book, we can always come back and also assign the same setting to the Ethernet 1 adapter as well. So now we can see both adapters have that DNS setting. All right, now on to actually installing the Active Directory role. So now we'll come back to our server manager dashboard here. Go to manage, add roles and features. And then it has a before you begin screen, which talks to you about determining the roles, services, and features to install based on the needs of the organization. And there's some important steps here, like making sure the administrator account has a strong password. Network settings such as static IPs are configured, and security updates are installed. Now for installing Active Directory, the strong password doesn't really apply because it's going to have you create a new one for the Active Directory administrator, and it's also going to have you create a directory restore password during the setup process. So we'll go next. We're going to do a role-based feature installation. We're selecting a server from the server pool, which is this server. And we're going to install Active Directory domain services. So it's going to pop up this window. It's going to show you all these features that are required as part of that. And then also make sure this box is ticked for include management tools. and they are applicable for Active Directory unless you like doing everything from command line and PowerShell. And nothing else on here we need to do. Go next, next, next. So this option on this page allows it to restart the server automatically after the role is installed if required by the installation, which does need to happen. So we will go ahead and tick that. Click install, and it's going to go through the process of installing the feature now. Okay, features are installed. Installation succeeded. All right. Guess it didn't require the restart yet. It's after we promote it. Sorry for that misinformation there. So again, back up here. So after the role is installed, we come up here, we see the exclamation point under notifications in the server manager. Click on that. It's saying there's a post-deployment configuration that needs to be done still, saying configuration is required for Active Directory domain services. And it has a link for promote to domain controller. So there's 3 options: add domain controller to existing domain, add new domain to existing forest, or add the new forest. And in this case, we're going to add a new forest. They're saying to use test domain .local. And next. So our forest function levels will be in domain level is 2016 server, which is the latest option available in this release of server 2016. Being a new forest, new domain, we can set the highest level, whereas if you were integrating it in an existing domain, you might have to do it at a lower function level in order to install a newer version of Windows Server. This is going to be a DNS server as well as a global catalog server. It cannot be a read-only domain controller, so that option is grayed out, and you can't turn off the global catalog since it's required as the first and only domain controller on this domain. Choose a super strong password of password 01 for your directory services restore mode. And I mistyped it. Next. It's automatically going to create its DNS delegation, so that option is. It populated test domain because that was the part before the .local automatically. You could change it here, but there's no need to. Just go ahead and leave that. Next. All right, so in this window we have our destination locations. In this case, we're not changing them. In some situations, you might have a server with multiple drives with different types of storage mediums or trying to split it apart for performance, but under most cases, you wouldn't need to do that. So we're going to leave the default. Okay, so here's a little review screen showing us all the options. So here's our fully qualified domain name, NetBIOS domain name, function levels, global catalog, DNS, the delegation, the location of the folders, and so on. Now we can always grab this script here, which could be used for PowerShell deployments. We'll do next. Now it's going to go through and install the domain controller pieces and configure the domain. All right, so now we have the prerequisites check screen. It's gone through and checked everything. There's some exclamation points there, just giving you information. It's nothing that's going to stop it from happening. The checks are good overall, and everything passed successfully. So if we hit install, it'll finish the installation of Active Directory services for Windows Server 2016. So it finished. Now it's getting ready to reboot the computer to finalize the installation, and when it comes back up, it will be a domain controller on the New Forest. This first boot will take a little while as it's applying all the settings. All right, our domain controller rebooted. Let's Control-Alt-Delete and log in. Notice here in the login screen, now it shows test domain /administrator. Since there is no local account, it doesn't have the option of just administrator for a local user. So we will log in with our super secure password 01. And once it logs in, it'll launch Server Manager here. As that's loading, we can look under Tools, and we can see we have the new control panel items: Active Directory Administrative Center, Domains and Trust, module for PowerShell, sites and services, users and computers, and the ADSI edit. And also over here on the left side, now we have the tools in the Server Manager for Active Directory DS and DNS, and also the DNS option here. So that was that task, and my next video will be for the next task